Okay everybody, here it is. 2 years later from the first video. I am finally calling this project completed. Um, it's been a lot of adjusting and getting things right on a very limited amount of time that I have personally for projects like this. So I'm happy to finally kind of show the completed build and let you guys check it out. Hopefully those of you who have followed along on how to create your own Nintendo PC build, hopefully these videos have been useful to you, and I'm just going to kind of show off the system in its completed form. So as you're looking at it, it's pretty much a stock looking NES, other than obviously these Wi-Fi antennas off the side. The rear is actually a really nice clean look. I really tried to not do too much hack and slash to the unit for, just so it looked nice. So that said, looking at the overview on the outside and appearance, I don't have the lid screwed on just for the purposes of the demo. Usually it's screwed down and it stays tight. So I'm just going to lift that off so you can check out the components. So here you can see we've got an H67 platform Zotac Mini-ITX motherboard in there with a Core i3. The fan in here that keeps the heat circulating a little bit throughout the case. We've got a Corsair V4 SSD in here. The power buttons are wired up to trigger the motherboard to turn on. The power supply here is a Pico PSU 120, which is plenty of power for it. I got some ultra low voltage Samsung memory in here. You can see I have the USBs wired up to some retro USB controllers on the motherboard headers to allow the controller ports to work correctly. SATA cable coming across here. On this I have kind of a internal header adapter USB with a Bluetooth adapter inside, and I'll show you what I use that for in the future a little bit later in the video. But once again, on the back port it's got power, HDMI, and 2 USB ports. So pretty simple, pretty tight on the inside, and I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, and what I'm going to do next is power it on, screw it down, power it on, and let you take a look at it in action. So here we have it loaded up. Some of you out there might be familiar with this interface. It's called Hyperspin, and it allows you to kind of have a front end for your different games. You can kind of just load up different themes and things, so you can see different, I don't know, it just looks really nice. And how I have it set up is through just a software front end that maps the joypad buttons to keyboard commands. So let's scroll on up and kind of slide through some of these. We'll go into some Mario, and you can see all the buttons work just like a normal Nintendo. You can even do the 2 players. You got both of them set up that way, and it's obviously got an enormous amount of processing power for playing these types of Nintendo games. I'm sure everyone watching this is really familiar with emulators and whatnot, so it's really not that big a deal. But you can see, I'm not even looking at the screen here, but it's really responsive to everything I'm doing, and feels like like a real Nintendo pretty much, other than the graphics look a little bit nicer because of the scaling filters that are available. I'm gonna go ahead and pause that. How I set up the menu integration, so if you're in this window watching or playing Mario and you're like, don't want to play Mario anymore, I want to go play some Double Dragon. Obviously you don't have cartridges for the Nintendo. So how you navigate back to that front end is I've set it up so there's a double command. So if you hold down the select button and press start, it will go back to the menu and you can continue to navigate through there and head out into some Mega Man 2, and you don't need to use a keyboard for it. You can just have this Nintendo PC boot right into the front end, and then you can just start playing and just go right to it and fight some boss battles. And so that's pretty much it. You can see the hard drive light here. I don't know if that's shown up on the camera too well, but rather than have it just be an on-off type button, let's pause that. I set it up to be hooked into the hard drive light, so basically you can see as it flashes, you'll know it's doing something on the computer. So that's the way I decided that it would be good for my build. There's lots of variations you can do. I got one more thing to show you, and that's the Bluetooth that I was telling you about. And the reason I did that is because you don't always want to be just playing Nintendo games. What about Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 games? This controller isn't going to cut it to play even Super Nintendo games. It doesn't have nearly enough buttons to get you there. So I'll show you what I use that Bluetooth controller for in just a second. Okay, so what I'm using the Bluetooth for is this controller right here. What this will let me do is use that Bluetooth controller internally here on the unit to run a Bluetooth controller. I'm running this Wii Pro U that's got kind of a SNES shape, kind of a retro styled game command that should work for using Nintendo 64. The only problems I've had so far is just specifically with this controller. I can get all these front pads working, but the advanced Wii Pro style controls I haven't figured out yet. So if anyone has any tips on that, let me know. So all in all, this has been a pretty fun project. It's been about 2 years in the making, but it's finally done and it's pretty cool. I hope you've enjoyed a lot of these videos, and check out my other videos. Please subscribe. There's lots of cool stuff I'm doing on my channel all the time. Just got a new channel redesign, so check it out, subscribe, and thanks for watching.